The youth movement for the Calgary Flames has serious implications on the future of the organization, and with a couple of teenagers cracking the opening night roster, things are looking good. However, there is uncertainty as to how much they'll actually play, but don't worry as we have a huge Zayne Parekh update that should calm some nerves. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family, and there are no worries for Z, or Zed, as we should say. But Zayne Parekh, obviously, he cracked the lineup as a teenager, and it's, really exciting, or at least cracked the opening night roster. Not sure if he'll be in the lineup, as at the most recent practice before today, he was kind of slated on the extra D pairing. But again, we'll see how much he does play. But either way, I did want to provide one quick update before we get into Parekh from yesterday, as it literally came out right after I had uploaded yesterday's videos. But the Flames made 3 moves to get to the 23-man roster. So Jonathan Huberdeau was put on IR. Obviously, that injury that happened in the Vancouver game where they got smoked in the preseason. Martin Pospisil also placed on IR, even though he seems like he's almost ready to go, but that was also in the same game against Vancouver. And Sammy Honzek was actually called up from the Wranglers, so it'll be interesting to see if he does play tomorrow against Edmonton over, a guy like Gridden or someone else in that lineup there, or if he's just being called up to be the extra man. But either way, I did make a comment under yesterday's video. No one was confused about anything, but just wanted to make sure that was there. And when it comes to the cap situation for the Flames heading into the season based off of all these moves, so Puckpedia released that the Flames opening roster has $9.7 million projected in cap space with 23 active players, 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, 2 goalies. On IR, Huberdeau and Pospisil, as we just saw, dead cap hit, still paying Markstrom $1.875 in that retained salary with the trade with the Devils. And with no roster moves, this can fit $44 million of annual cap hit at the deadline, which is actually insane. Feel free to go ahead, zoom in. One thing I did want to point out was Guitar Memoir actually said it on yesterday's video, but it is kind of shocking to have that Sharangovich contract on the 4th line. Who knows what the lines will actually be like? I'm sure we honestly won't know until the game starts to be played tomorrow. And Huska likes to switch around the lines anyway, but either way, that's the sort of cap situation, I should say. And now if we get into this kind of Parekh update, Darren Haynes is one of, obviously, he says just the most sound-minded things you can, but he wrote just a huge tweet that had so much, and we're going to go over the entire thing, because it is, kind of almost enlightening as a Flames fan, but also it calms some nerves, like I kind of said in the intro of this video. But let's get into it. So he says some context to what Zayne Parekh is on the cusp of doing, regardless of whether he plays on Wednesday, and if he plays all that much this year in general. So in Flames franchise history, which dates back 54 years, only 4 defensemen have made the club as a teenager and spent most or the entirety of that season in the NHL. We had Robin Regehr back in 99-2000 with 57 games at the age of 19. Derek Morris in 97-98 played all 82 games at the age of 19, quite impressive. Brian Glynn back in 87-88 played 20 games at the age of 19 but turned 20 in November. And then Paul Reinhart way back in 79-80 played 37 games at the age of 19 and turned 20 throughout that season as well. Now, to continue, there's also been a handful of one-offs along the way. So Valimaki played 1 game at 19. Shillington played 1 game at 18, believe it or not, way at the end of the 2016 season. Jamie Allison played 1 game at the age of 19, and then Randy Turnbull played 1 game at the age of 19 back in 81. So there are a handful of teens as defensemen that have played for the Flames, but it's rare to see one really stick with the club. So will that be Parekh's situation or not? We'll have to see. Of course, we can't forget about the similarly hyped 1981 first-round pick Al MacInnis, who played 2 games at the age of 18 in 1981-82, and then 14 more games at the age of 19 the following year, but spent the majority of those 2 seasons with the Kitchener Rangers. So obviously, Zayne Parekh's 18-year-old season, he spent the entire thing in the OHL with the Saginaw Spirit, of course. So Al MacInnis played a few games in there, and, he was obviously hyped, much like Parekh is, and he didn't play all that much as a teenager. But as we definitely know, it worked out. For fans old enough to remember, it took a while and plenty of patience for number 2 to arrive for good, but Chopper went on to play over 1,400 NHL games, win a Conn Smythe when he led Calgary to its only Stanley Cup, and he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So this is very much rarefied air for Parekh and a moment to be celebrated. Just making the team so impressive. It can't go without saying that. The Flames have a future star in the making, and if Parekh doesn't play in the season opener in Edmonton, that doesn't change that or tarnish anything he's accomplished thus far, nor should it be a point of consternation. That is so key here. The whole update revolves around that right there. For me, so for Haynes, this has nothing to do with Jake Bean and everything to do with Parekh and what's best for his development in a season in which rules will not allow for him to be sent down to the AHL, which is the ideal place to develop young players, especially defensemen, as we know. Pardon me, excuse me. As we witnessed the last couple preseason games, he obviously still has lots of work to do on his defensive game, and that will remain a work in progress for seasons to come. This is not unexpected. Sheltering him a little in his first year of pro hockey isn't just okay, it's common sense. So this kid is part of the future core of this team. Not playing him on the road against two of the world's best players is nothing more than the coaching staff wanting to set him up for success versus the opposite. It's hard to fault that mindset as the Flames continue to whatever ahead of what they hope will be more prosperous years as they move into Scotia Place. Development should be the number one priority in everything they do. Developing this youth movement, especially Zayne Parekh. Parekh is going to play plenty this season, and he'll face lots of tough matchups along the way. Easing him into it isn't the criminal offense some are making it out to be. There will be tons of opportunities ahead for him to learn from his mistakes and for fans to enjoy the refreshing flash and dash that Parekh brings to the team. So that's everything from Haynes, and you know what? All of it is quite fair. There are going to be fans that will be upset. Some may be completely PO'd if Parekh is not playing in Edmonton tomorrow. And, when it comes to the excitement revolving around this team and why, the watchability in a way, it really does revolve around the youth movement, especially Parekh. So I can totally understand why people would be upset. But in a way, it kind of makes the most sense for his development. There were quite a few, obviously, replies to this huge tweet. I just wanted to showcase a few of them here. I know it's a little bit small, but one guy said, I'd argue it's much harder to develop someone if you only shelter them because then they aren't getting the actual NHL experience. So is it better to, develop in the actual NHL, make your mistakes in the NHL and get better? Not too sure, because obviously that's what matters most. It's much easier to develop in the A, which he can't do this year. So I really doubt Parekh wants to go back to Saginaw, but, it could be an option, obviously. Another person said, well said, from Darren Haynes. He said, well said. Lots of fans think playing is development. Setting players up for success or giving the opportunities to fall forward is development. Falling can lead to backwards development sooner than forward. That's a lot of direction going on here. Forward, backward, all of that, falling, rising, I don't even know. But either way, it is true. Sometimes you can really stunt someone's growth if you throw them in and they're not doing well. And then it can lead to confidence issue, mental health issues, just so on and so forth. And everything, there's so many different possibilities in this scenario. There's no right or wrong answer. So it's fair to want him to develop in the NHL or to not want to develop him in the NHL. It's so fair. Another person says, I'm not worried about him sitting. I trust his development. It's going to be fire. Or it's going to be hot and true. He seems like a true professional, so no matter what, he'll be okay. Another person says, well said, I really hope we see him on Saturday for the home opener. So not against Edmonton on Wednesday, not against Vancouver on Thursday. That would be a great way to inject additional excitement for a team with modest expectations going into the season. And that's a great way to put it. Modest expectations, so true. The excitement is around the youth. Would you put in Parekh? Either way, I think there's no worries for Zayne here. No matter what the Flames decide to do, no matter what Parekh decides to do, everything will be okay. Now, next thing I wanted to do was just a quick few bold predictions here as the regular season does commence tomorrow for the Flames. The NHL season obviously kicks off tonight. And I wanted to do something different, do my own bold predictions. I think I did this at the beginning of last season, and I think it's safe to say none of my bold predictions came true, which might be a good thing. But either way, I'm going to have 3 of them. You can feel free to let me know if you have any bold predictions for this season, or if you think I'm out to lunch with a lot of these, which, I mean, that's why they're bold predictions. But either way, my first one here is that the Flames stumble out of the gate and they trade Raz before the end of November. So not even 2 months, 2 full months of this season. And look, the Flames have a difficult schedule to, begin the year. Will that harm them if they're completely out of it, a couple months in? Makes it a little bit easier to make that decision to trade. Why would Raz want to stick around at that point? So that's one bold prediction. Another one, Rory Cairns becomes a mainstay by the beginning of 2026. So by the time the new year hits, January comes around, I think Rory Cairns will become a mainstay in the lineup, whether that's through, knock on wood, God forbid, but injuries to someone else, or it's, bad performance from certain players get traded away. I think Cairns will be mainstay by January 2026 for this Flames team. And those ones are, they're a little bit on the spicy scale. They go a little bit far on the Scoville one. My last one, I'm not even going to explain it. You can feel free to add your own context in the comments below. My third bold prediction for this season, Jonathan Huberdeau retires. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say when I think that could possibly happen, why I think it could possibly happen. All I'll say, bold prediction, Jonathan Huberdeau retires from the NHL. Again, crazy bold. Now let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this video, as we love to do here on the channel. It comes from yesterday's video, of course, and it goes really well with what we're talking about in this video here. It comes from the legendary Chris Ovis. He says, welcome to the NHL, Zayne and Matvey, obviously with them making the team. Now go defend against McDavid and Hughes on back-to-back nights, on the road as well. Well, again, we'll see if they end up playing, but that would be quite, the introduction to the NHL in a way. I mean, yes, Zayne Parekh played 1 game last year, scored a goal. He averages 1 goal per game in his NHL career as a defenseman. Absolutely excellent. But this is, their real welcome to the NHL, made the team. Could that be how they start this year? We'll have to see. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to what you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.